Hello, everyone. This is Coach Kat back for another week of entrepreneur lifestyle as well as reinventing yourself starts here. So, we talked last week and the week before about some techniques that you can consider, and I'm talking about the breathing exercises as well as the positive intelligence exercises. We talked about those in order to grow your business, to create the new you in your business. So this week, we are going to get into a little more of reinventing yourself. So make sure you take out pen and paper. Every week at 10 a.m., we're going to be here on YouTube. So just in case you have registered through Eventbrite and didn't get the link, I tried to register myself and I'm not seeing how Eventbrite is sending out emails, even though they say that they will send out reminder emails, but I'm not seeing that. So next time I'm going to have in my own series of emails. I was trying not to overwhelm anyone with having too many emails coming at you about one event. So subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you'll be able to get the notifications through YouTube and we won't have to worry about Eventbrite. But if you're going to go through Eventbrite, I will, starting next week, have a series of emails that let you know right where to meet me. Next week, I'm also going to be in a group as a guest speaker. Actually, the next 2 Tuesdays, I'm going to be in a group on Facebook called Digital Marketing on a Budget. Okay, this is not quite what I'm wanting to do. Give me one moment. I like all of the tools that Google allows you to use, but if you are not in your Google account that you want linked to your YouTube account, it's going to be difficult for you to pull up your YouTube videos that you need. So let me try this once more. All right. Mm, We're talking about reinventing yourself this week. Again, some more. All right. Let's see why I'm not able to find what I'm looking for. Okay. I'll come back to it in a moment. I'll come back to it in a moment. So, this week, I want to talk about reinventing yourself in the sense of having a recovery plan. That's something that's been on my mind for probably a while, but real heavy the last couple of days. We don't plan to fail. You plan to have a plan that's strong. You plan to have a plan that allows you to overcome any obstacle that may come your way, but you don't know what that obstacle is. And if an obstacle does come and overtake you, you look at it as if maybe it's a failure, a setback, and there sometimes, many times, we don't know what to do. We don't know what our next move should be. And a lot of it is because emotionally we're compromised in the sense that we thought what we were doing was going to work and we didn't see a reason why it shouldn't work. And if it didn't work, we must have done something wrong. You did something that didn't work in that space and time. A story about me a few years ago, I wanted to do my television show, and I had been doing my television show in the studio for a couple of years. But I kept hearing about doing something on location, and I didn't have my own video equipment. And you could get equipment from the studio, that was an option. You could have a friend with equipment, that was an option. And so I decided I wanted to try to do something on location. and I'm going to make this big splash, and I'm going to do this exciting thing, and people are going to gravitate to it quickly, and it's going to grow quickly, and it's going to be everything that the city I live in needs. And it wasn't. It wasn't big, and if it is what my city needed, they didn't need it at that time. Looking back on it, my hands were tied because my technology was limited because I didn't have my own equipment. So if I'm going to record something on location, what would be the reason, or not the reason, what would be the, I don't want to call it a plan B, but the recovery plan, because you still have your plan and you want to keep your plan, but how do we get back on track to that plan? A plan B means like, well, we're going to have this, but then we'll do this. That's completely different. But I still want to do my television show. And Zoom was available at the time. However, Zoom was not encouraged at the studio. Zoom was available at the time, but my knowledge of being able to use Zoom, having the right equipment at home to give a decent recording so the studio would accept it, to make sure that we didn't have any breaks in communication. Those things my hands were tied on 3 or 4 years ago. But now people understand technology a lot better in the sense that they understand that it may go out and that's okay. That you may not hear both speakers equally and that's okay. That you may not see both speakers clearly and that's okay. You can do your best effort to make sure that you and your guest on your television show that you would do through Zoom or any other video conferencing software, you can do your best to make sure everyone shows up and looks good as best as possible, but it still may not be high quality. And people are getting used to webinars and Zoom conferencing. In fact, even before last year, I don't know that regular podcasting was accepting of you having a Zoom meeting or StreamYard or Facebook Live and calling it your television show. You have to really do a thing over and over and over and believe that it's what it's going to be. You have to have the knowledge of how to use it as well. So back then, had I had a better understanding of Zoom, I would have taken Zoom and put it on YouTube. And someone tried to get me to do that. And I was thinking, no, I want to really stay at the studio. I want my content to be able to be at the studio. Well, I just shared with you that a few years ago, the quality of a StreamYard or Zoom conference software may have not been quality enough for the studio. So I could have, as a recovery plan, I know you want to do your TV show, Catherine, but what parts have to be and what parts don't have to be? Okay. At the time, I thought I had to be at the television studio. What I wanted to do was my television show. It did not have to air at the studio. I really believed it should. I wanted to, and it felt like a part of my plan that I couldn't be flexible with. Okay. But I could have, because the studio might have not accepted the recording at a location because it may have not been the right quality. So, what do I do if I have this great content, but it's just not good enough for the studio? YouTube is a great place. Back then, the studio settings for YouTube were not like they are now. And I know as quickly as technology moves, it feels like I'm giving an excuse in this moment. But then, back then, loading up to YouTube Live was a challenge, because you still needed to understand editing and upload and download. There's some simple technology stuff you just need to know. So that's something that in hindsight, if I had a better understanding of technology, maybe I could have produced the sound that would have been perfect for the studio. But if I didn't, I could have loaded my items to YouTube and still promoted it that way. Part of me felt like that would be wishy-washy. That felt like maybe I wasn't really at the studio because I have to use these other avenues. But then I saw other people being syndicated in a sense where they showed up in more than one place. So I want to have flexibility, but I don't know where to have flexibility in this recovery plan. So in hindsight, putting it on YouTube, if it couldn't go in the studio, is something that could be done. So a lot of this was personal perception and my emotions about it. And I told them I was on public access, but I'm showing myself on YouTube. And is that a lie? Is that not right? Why did I have to do that? I got too caught up in sticking to the plan as opposed to saying, okay, I want to be in the studio. I really, 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 really want to be in the studio. And these are the things that have to happen to make it be in the studio. But if it's not in the studio, I really, really, really want to do my TV show. And I really don't care where I do my television show. I could have done Facebook Live, that was around. I could have put it on YouTube. I could have recorded it on my phone and I could have recorded it through Zoom, and then I could have loaded the file later. I could have done that. But then the other thing about my TV show, I wanted the live studio audience. Oh, okay. What is the plan to recover from not having a live studio audience? Well, today I have an idea, but I don't know if it would have worked back then because I wasn't thinking about it. It may have been available. I don't know. But today I could do a Zoom meeting like they do webinars, and the webinar audience is my studio audience, and me and my guest have a conversation like someone teaching a class on a webinar would do. Hello, everyone. I'm the main guest, or I'm the main host, and now I have a guest host, and you're the audience. So the modifications, being able to be flexible, is very generic, but how to be flexible. I really, really wanted to do my television show. I really, really wanted it to be on public access. I really wanted it to be on TV so people could access it just in case they weren't on the computer. So I really had all these things that I wanted to work a certain way. But I could have had the same scenario, but served different ways. People prepare things a different way. We all have a habitat, whether we have a tent, whether we have a mansion, whether we live in a car, we have a habitat. And whoever lives in that same type of habitat that you live in, tent, apartment, car, wherever it is that you're living, they do it differently. You may have some of the similar things. You may have dishes, but the dishes may be different. You may have a bed, but the bed may be different. You may decide to have a television, or you may decide to limit your viewing so you don't buy a television and you only watch programming through a tablet or your phone. But we all are doing the similar thing. We're taking in entertainment, we're protecting ourselves from outside elements. But at what point do we decide, okay, this is too much flexibility in my life? At what point do we decide that by me being flexible in this area, it doesn't take away from what I'm really trying to do? What I was really trying to do a few years ago is have people at a studio audience. And in that moment, I laughed and I said, you know what? If the cameras don't work, I'll have everyone record on their phone. I never received a warning that the cameras were not working. I never checked in like I did at the studio to make sure that the cameras were working. So what was my plan B when that whole day went by and the cameras weren't working? I had people fly. I think I piled up guilt on top of myself because I had people fly in, travel in from out of town to be a part of my show, and it didn't work out. But as technology has it, it could have worked well that day, and something happened between downloading the information, that person editing it, and it coming back to me. Something could have happened. I don't know, because all I know at this point to this day is that I didn't get footage. Um, and the footage is not available. So what do I do? It did end up being a good experience because people were able to collaborate on new projects, they networked. There was a whole experience of being there. But I didn't produce anything and I took it personal. Taking it personal is something that really will help you in your recovery plan. Yes, you plan your TV show to be taped at a museum. Beautiful. beautiful experience. However, instead of taking away what did go well, even though you didn't plan it, instead of taking away what did go well, you're beating yourself up for what didn't go as you planned it. So I should have had people video and submit their clips, even though the cameras could have been working. I think that would have been interactive, that would have been fun, that may have been something special. But take that out. We were away from the scene, and I don't know the cameras weren't working, and I didn't ask people to use their devices. So get home, you don't have any footage. What could have been a recovery plan? A recovery plan could have been employing the tool like Zoom and doing something where I have side by side interview discussion with my guest so that we still have the content. They had the experience, but we have to do this. I think my embarrassment kept me from wanting to say, I really failed big time. And it's not failing. Have more than one way to do this thing. We're going to do it on location with cameras. All right. Get home, find out you don't have any footage or can't get any footage, something went wrong, something didn't go right. Take that same group of people, invite them online for a conversation. And I really wish I would have thought of that then. It may have been, I don't know what people would have thought. I don't know. And I think that kept me from trying it a different way because I've promoted this is what we're going to do. But you've seen events where they say, if it rains, we're going to move this event to this day. So they have a flexibility on the date, but I don't know if they have a flexibility on what may happen because my guess is if you have a rain date, maybe the people who could come that first date are really, really hoping that they don't have to use that rain date because they can't be there for that thing. So maybe you have less vendors, less performers, or maybe it's in their contract to be able to come a second day. I don't know. But then part of me, I really wanted this live event where people came in person and they lined up in that energy. I really wanted that. So I think too, a lot of what I really wanted was hindering me from having a recovery plan. And why did I really want it that way? And when I found out it couldn't work that way, why did I really still pour my energy over it as opposed to, all right, kiddo, it didn't work that way, or that's a slower process, or it's not quite going as smooth as you thought. What else can you do? And there's lots of ideas, but something inside of my makeup is saying, but you're not being quite honest because you promoted a live in-person museum experience and taping. But things go wrong in tapings. They do. And that's why they do multiple takes of things. That's why they try things. And that's why, even though it may be a 30-minute interview or a 30-minute show, it may take 3 hours to get it right or more. So being flexible with your plan, and if you feel like, okay, I don't want to be flexible with my plan, Catherine, then have 3 plans that lead you to the same core. I want to record interviews in front of a live audience. How that pans out, how that shakes out, that's something to be determined. It could be where we're all physically in the location. It could be we're all online. It could be we're all physically in a location and everyone uses their devices. We take turns. I pick a audience member and there are our guest videographer for the day. Anything, anything, but make your plan that leads you to your main point. My main point was being able to do a live television show with a studio audience. My how, I got caught up on my how. Reinventing yourself means being able to let go a lot quicker and to revisualize what you're doing a lot quicker. Have more than one way to skin that cat. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to Reinventing Yourself Starts Here. And as an entrepreneur, it's not about getting things right and wrong. It's about trying things, seeing what works. And sometimes you try things and they work repeatedly. And then one day they don't work anymore. The reason they don't work anymore is because this time you need a different idea. That idea you had may work again in a future activity, but it's not working here today. So what's something else that you can do to get you to the same result? Okay. More than one route to get to a destination, more than one way to skin a cat, whatever your comparison is, whatever your parable is in life that helps you reset yourself, use that and understand there's more than one answer to the problem. Solutions, not just one solution. And that makes life a lot more bearable. There's more than one way to get the same thing you're trying to achieve. That was one of my big messages from a few years ago, trying to do my television on location live with lots of people. Until next week, I will see you next week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a super day, and I will bring you more tips on how to reinvent yourself. It's Coach Cat. Until next week. Bye now.